Hello, and welcome to Proof of Concept, the podcast about concept cars. I'm Alex. And Will is apparently dead. Will?
Yep, that I heard none of that. It just said
Oh,
nothing,
oh,
absolutely
yay.
nothing, and now I can see. So this is great.
Can you hear me now at least?
I can hear you now.
Okay, alright, there we go. Whew. Okay, not the best of openings, but we're here. It's only been a week since our last one because we had Par and Todd on, who we may be having back because last week was a lot of fun. But for this week, it's just me and Will again. So, Will, what have you been up to in the past week in the world of motoring?
I've been alive, and I've been making sure that things don't go wrong. Hence,
I,
I
I,
mentioned on a previous episode that the Terios had a shopping list, and today I have spent said money on said shopping list.
I was going to
So
say
I'm
because
waiting for all those parts to come from Germany because the Terios doesn't have parts being made, and they're actually not as expensive as I thought. So we will see when that comes and if it is actually delivered.
I was going to say it's very rare that we start one of these and you don't tell me, oh, I've broken this thing on the Terios. I think your Terios
Mm-hmm.
may break more often than my Alpha did.
Um, are you aware of how much punishment I put this car through?
Are you aware of how much punishment? Oh, excuse me. Oh, excuse me. I just had a kebab right before eating this, and now it's coming out a bit gassy. Not going well for me. Are you aware of how much
Nice.
punishment I
That's
put the Alpha through? I abused that car heavily, and it kept going. I really miss that car.
It was a very, very pucker motor, I must say.
Because you got to drive
I
it
was
once
very
for all of
envious.
like 5 minutes. It's a shame that you didn't get to drive it properly hard. Because you've taken the MR2 for a bit of a proper spin, but not a full born one. Yeah.
I'm excited for this.
The only two things I've got that have happened to me this week. So me and Paran changed the back box on my MR2, which involved taking the entire back end off the MR2. Which, thinking about it, might have been the week before. Yeah, it was the week before. Oh well. As you can tell, I'm doing well with my dates and times. I am struggling with a lack of sleep as per usual. Um, so we thought that would fix it. Turns out it's leaking from elsewhere in the exhaust. So I've now changed 2/3 of the exhaust, and still it's leaking. So I've got one last piece to change, which I can't be asked because it's the header, and that's a bit of a pain in the neck to do. However, we do now have a new car at this household.
Ooh, I did see the post, but I forgot to message it. I'm intrigued.
So my dad works on. He has to go around and train people occasionally, so he gets a company car. Now we had a Ford Mondeo before this, the estate version, which we quite liked. We were fond of it. It's now been replaced with a smaller VW Passat Estate, brand new, um, and something fell off it already.
Wow. Yeah.
That's
That just screams minicab.
yeah.
And I now want a kebab. I would need to spray some Lynx Africa to hide the smell of BO, and there's probably going to be a murdered hitchhiker in the boot, like, help me, please! All I hear is tractor noises.
Yet again, to reiterate, here at Proof of Concept Podcast headquarters, we don't support the views of Will. Please don't cancel us on Twitter, even though we don't have a Twitter or anywhere else really. Please keep watching us. Thank you. Um,
I'm just opinionated.
I mean, so am I. You have no idea how hard I have to struggle to keep my political views off the channel at all. The number of times I'm just like, no, no, everyone will stop watching if I start talking about politics, and people will argue in the comments, and I don't want arguments because they make me sad.
We want fun.
But yeah, no, at 27 miles, one of the reflectors fell off the door. That's it. That does not spark well, does it? It's got
That's
yeah.
that's quality product.
Oh yeah. It's also got a sport mode function, which is in a 2 liter diesel estate. Doesn't really do a lot, especially because it's one of the most wallowy cars I've ever been in. It just rolls. It rolls worse than your Micra did.
Seriously?
Mm. It's not. It's yeah. We're not overly fond of it as yet. It's not exactly it's not endeared itself to us just. I mean, we've only had it for like 4 days, so there's that. But yeah, it's not even the newest car we've ever had. No, it's not actually. That's a lie. We did have a new car once before. We had a Land Rover Discovery Sport, which was okay. But yes, it's our first ever VW in the family, which leads us quite well onto today because we're talking about VW. So
And
Will,
I'm going to sleep.
yeah, I was gonna say you don't like VW, and to be honest, neither do I. So I've got a bit of a collection of VWs here, including the one my dad's got. This isn't the exact one, obviously, because my dad hasn't got German plates, but that's the Passat we've got there. VW known for its people's cars, it's Volkswagen, plain and simple.
Folks car.
And now don't get me wrong, I know a lot of people do really like VWs. I just there's not a lot about most VWs that interest me at all. They are bland, they are boring. The ones I do like are things like this one in the top right hand corner. So this is the Phaeton. Do you know about the Phaeton?
I love the Phaeton. That is
Yeah.
the only VW that I have lust and respect for.
So it's basically a cut price Bentley, and it's very understated. And I love the Phaeton, and because you can get a W12 or you can get a bi-turbo diesel V10, things like that. Very very interesting car actually, and they do have a lot of interesting engines. Like they got the V5, they got the VR6. I think they're really cool things. This is the problem with VW, is they've got a load of really intelligent engineers, and they make some genuinely brilliant engines. They make some really good drivetrains, and obviously the DSG gearbox. As much as I don't care at all for autos, is a brilliant auto. And then they just wrap it in the blandest packaging possible, and it just, like this Mark V Golf here at the top left. Can you just does anything come to your mind if you look at that? Because I look at that and that is just an car to me.
Hot point fridge.
It's just nothing about them feels special. And I get that. All right, me and you are a bit mentally challenged in the fact that we like to have rare or unique or slightly interesting things. I mean, I daily drove an Alfa Romeo for 2.5 years. I have the lesser used two-seater sports car because I decided no, I don't want an MX-5 or a Z3 like normal people. I want an MR2. And obviously you got a Terios and not a Jimny like you should have. But I know
Sure.
I know we like our slightly weirder things, but I genuinely don't see the appeal to most Volkswagens. And I'm aware you're in the same boat, aren't you, Will?
Indeed. For me, right. Like most German car makers, like most Germans, they're agreeable. I have infinite respect, especially in terms of Volkswagen. They are everything you could want from a car, but or need from a car even. But there's no desire, there's no passion I can see. They're good, but good isn't always what you're looking for. A bad car can have more charisma than a good car.
Yeah.
Take my Micra, for example. It was a heap of crap, and it rattled and it shaked and bits fell off of it. But that was the most fun I've ever had with four wheels. Yes, okay, it was an old model, but you can have an old model Golf. Take the Mark IV. Someone I know used to drive a Mark IV Golf, and it's dull. They're good, but dull.
Was it the
And
single
it's a
cam
lot like the people
diesel
that
one?
drive these.
Was that the single
Yes, that's
cam
right.
non-turbo diesel?
Yes, that's right. I think it was a 2-liter non-turbo single overhead cam. It was a Mark V, actually, sorry, and it had 75 horsepower. And it was the slowest things, other than a sofa being pushed down a hill. That had more aerodynamic ability than the Mark V Golf. It's just a car,
Yeah, and
but it's like the people that drive them, bland.
now we're gonna get now we're gonna get a lot of hate. I don't know. I can see why people kind of like. I guess because you can get easy power out of the TDIs. There's that, and parts are affordable. Actually, one of my favorite things, if we're going to talk about VW parts, you can buy a genuine Volkswagen part that is manufactured in the exact same factory as the cars. You can buy VW sausages. They're
The
called.
Germans are known for less sausage,
Yeah,
and they even have a parts number.
yeah, currywurst. You can technically go into any parts dealer and go, I would like to buy this part number, and they will come up on the system as a sausage, and I find that wonderful. And you can
Ah,
just go into any service department. If you seriously do it, go into your service department and ask for the go in with the part number and get them to enter it into the system. So they'll come up with the sausage. I've been meaning to do it for about 2 years. I still haven't got round to it. Because I don't want to be that dickhead that shows up in a Toyota and then goes, "Hey, can I have this VW part?" And it's a sausage. But I just find that really funny. But I do know that Volkswagen does have a slightly weird streak. Because as I said, they do have some interesting engines and they do have some bizarre sort of things. And obviously, Volkswagen Audi Group, or no, Volkswagen Auto Group, rather, encompasses quite a lot of car companies. You know, you've got Lamborghini, Porsche, Audi, all of these. So VW does have the capacity to be interesting and weird. So my task for the day, my dear friend Will, is that I want to try and convince both of us that actually we should like VW more than we do. And that's where I'm going to go with these concept cars. And annoyingly, I already know your opinion on the first one because you saw it just as we were starting it up, which worries me. But this is the VW W12 Synchro. And you don't like this, do you?
what it looks to me, that is something from Burnout Paradise. It doesn't look like something someone has made that we know of. Like Cadillac. They have a big wobbly ship, effectively. That to me looks nothing but a car you'd find in a game you play on your phone.
See, to me, it looks a lot like a Saleen S7, personally. But I can see where you're
I
coming
can,
from in that.
yeah, I can see the lineage, but it just don't get me wrong. I'm sure you'll tell me it's a technological masterpiece, but it's just an car to me.
Well, to educate the listeners, this was unveiled at the 1997 Tokyo Motor Show. And the whole point of this car was to basically prove that VW could make cool, interesting engines that were reliable. And in this case, surprisingly, with the name W12 Synchro, it was a 5.6 litre W12 engine that made 414 horsepower. And this is the engine. They did adapt it slightly, but this is the engine that ended up in that Phaeton from earlier, along with the Touareg, the A8, the Continental GT, and what have you. And it's four-wheel drive as well. So you'll notice it shares a lot of ideas and sort of design layout with a certain very, very powerful supercar. Because a lot of the design sort of ideas from this and a lot of the knowledge built from taking this actually went on to build the Bugatti Veyron later on when VW bought it.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I'm a bit annoyed because I was really hoping you'd be into this, but you don't
Surprise,
like it.
surprise!
Ah,
Curveballs.
so I mean, if it helps, if it soothes you over at all, it was designed by Giorgetto Giugiaro. This is a Giugiaro
Yep,
design.
yep.
I am dead shocked you don't like this. It's got all the drama. To me, this is a cool This looks very Volkswagen, but a supercar, and I think it actually kind of works. I quite like it.
And I don't condone that at all. That's perfectly reasonable. I can see what the allure is completely,
Mm.
but again, it's just if someone put that and a Spiker C8 aileron in front of me, I'd pick the Spiker. I know it would break down. I know it would blow up. I know it would try and kill me, but that's the fun. It's got character. Whereas because this is German and because it's been engineered properly, it will work fantastically, but it will be a bit cold.
See, yes, I do sort of agree with you in some ways there because while I do like the way this looks on the outside, you look at the interior and that does look very functional. It doesn't look very special in there. Whereas you look at like you brought up the Spiker. Everything in the Spiker is bespoke art, basically. The inside. So I can kind of understand on that aspect why it's not appealing from the sort of interior side. I could see this not selling particularly well because again, this is still in the 90s, so you still have the Jag X220 and what have you still going out. So all right, maybe in the 90s this would have been okay, but yeah, I don't know. I can see what you mean in regards to the interior, but on the outside, I think that's full of drama. That. Although it did get compared to the Ford GT60 when I mentioned it on a call with my American friends last night, which I don't know if you knew.
I've heard of the GT60, but yeah, I can see their reflection on that.
So you're saying this isn't mad enough for you? Is that what you're saying?
No.
So what if I made it a little bit madder?
Give it every kind of psychedelic drug and wow me.
Okay, well
Frankly,
this is
wow
what
me.
they turned it into in the top right hand corner. This is the W12 Roadster, which was made a year later for the Geneva Motor Show, and they chopped the roof off. Also, it still has that same engine, just which is in the bottom right, which I think that is a beautiful piece of tech there. But they've now, instead of being it 4-wheel drive, they put it straight to the rear wheels. So this is technically sort of not more powerful engine-wise, but has more wheel horsepower because there's less loss in the drivetrain. And I believe it was slightly lighter, although I think a bit more flimsy, supposedly. Which, come on, that has some more drama. Surely that must do something for you.
I'm liking it with the roof missing completely. I'm growing to it, but only from that angle.
It looks very German
because
Lamborghini.
yeah, because for me it's not mad enough. Take the bottom left picture where you've got the three angles. If you take the rear glass, the very sort of slight edge of glass after the door, that section after that looks like a Nimitz class aircraft carrier. It's flat. And with a Lamborghini, that doesn't stop until it reaches the end of the car, and it's got slashes, and it's got bulges and louvres.
I get what you mean. I mean, this has a very similar sort of shape to the Zonda, but obviously the Zonda does, big silly wings and what have you, and that does make it more hypercarish. All right. See, when you describe it like, I get what you mean. It lacks the drama that a car of this performance kind of needs to have to be a poster car. But ruthlessly functional. So the Spider was 1998. The year all good things came out. Specifically me. Actually, I said that I didn't come out until many years later. I was born in 1998. But that was an LGBT joke there. Well done, kids.
I was gonna make the same joke, and you stomped on my father.
Suck on it, gay man. Wow,
that
came out really offensive. Welcome to Proof of Concept. Technically, it's not a hate crime.
Oh dear. Oh no. We'll have RuPaul barking behind us at some point.
Oh, it's fine. I have at least 2 RuPaul songs on one of my playlists. At least 2.
And I'm leaving the chat.
Anyway, let me bring you back in.
I'm kidding.
So, the one in the bottom left and the black one. So they made it quite a few of the last one, which is the W12 Nado, which is obviously what you knew it as, which is named for the Nado Ring test track in Italy. And this actually did get used in motorsport. Only 1 year, only in 2002. But they cranked the horsepower. So again, before this in the Spider and what have you, it had 414 horsepower. This, still going to the rear wheels, made 591 brake horsepower. And they also managed to bring the weight down overall to 1,200 kilos, which is heavier than an MR2, which clearly means my MR2 is more superior. But it was about as heavy as the best car ever made, the Alfa Romeo 147. So, you know, and as a result of this
And the
sort of,
Terios, to be fair.
is it? That's quite surprising because
Mm-hmm.
four-wheel drive system is quite heavy. Then again, it's not a big vehicle, is it? The Terios, it is quite. Actually, I
Nope.
don't know. It's fairly sizable. Well, it's not sizable, but for the class of vehicle it
It's
is, it's
tall.
yeah. I do quite like the Terios. It's not a Jimny, it's not that good, but I say this having never driven a Jimny, but quite liking having driven the Terios, even though I drove it in a quite wounded state, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was a little bit damaged, but it's fine.
But yeah, so
We gloss.
this the Nado edition could do 0 to 62 in 3.5 seconds, which is no slouch.
That's still pretty rapid by today's standards.
That's very rapid, even by today's. Because I don't know what I think the Veyron does it in like 2 or something like that, but it
2.9, I think it was.
so that's not too bad at all. And it went up to a top speed of 222 miles an hour, which again, still very impressive, even by today's standards. It also broke a lot of records. So I've got it down here on the 23rd of February 2002. VW took it racing at the Nado Ring, and it took the world record for all speed classes over 24 hours. So they managed to travel 4,810 miles at an average speed of 200.6 miles per hour, which, including sort of pit stops for fuel and what have you, which you have to get out of the car, then refuel it and get back in, over 24 hours, and driver swaps. That's bloody impressive. Bear in
That's
mind,
very, very
yeah.
impressive.
And with 206 miles an hour as your average speed, I'm imagining they didn't have any breakdowns during that either. So this thing just absolutely booking it through the night for 4,810 miles. That's not bad. That's impressive
No, not
engineering.
at all.
And it still doesn't impress you.
I never said it didn't impress.
Wow.
It's very, very good at what it does. It just does it. It just does it. You know,
Hmm.
refined, quiet, sort of man that sits at the back of the pub. But it, it's good. Don't get me wrong. It's probably a fantastic car. The specs, what it can achieve, fine, perfect. But I don't get any spark. I get no. Oh wow! Look at this. I just get. That's pretty impressive.
See, I for me, I have a bit of a different viewpoint on that. And it's one of the reasons why I like Porsche. So I absolutely love Porsche. I don't know. Do you like Porsche? I've never actually asked.
Um, again, mad respect, but no love.
See, for me, I really love Porsche. Funny enough, I just noticed there's actually a Porsche in the background of the top left-hand photo. But I love 911s because
There is.
I've driven the latest generation and I really enjoyed it. I really want a 996 here, the fried egg headlight, but I want the facelift one, so I haven't got to deal with the really ugly headlights. But I I love the fact if you look online and say you want to buy that or a comparable Ferrari, I think comparable Ferrari would probably be the F355. The Ferrari has always got, it's 21,000 miles. It's been garaged its whole life. It's still got a repair bill list as long as your arm. The service bills as long as your arm, and they cost 70 odd grand. And it's had to be meticulously maintained. And every time you start it up, the battery dies. And I get people. I had an Italian car myself. People love the flair and review. Whereas what I love about the 911, which would have very similar performance statistics and all this, you're looking at them online, you can find them with 150, 200,000, 350,000 miles. They're all mega high mileage. The service bills are relatively low because they just get up in the morning and go. They're designed to be a fun, fast as car that you could drive every day. And a lot of people do, and still it works. It's kind of the whole proof. Because it's like the whole having your cake and eating it too. It's people always want to make out that if you want to have a sports car, it's unreliable. If you want to have a supercar, it's unreliable. Whereas the idea of the Porsche and this W12 here, the idea is no, actually, you can have a supercar that gets up and starts, and you can drive it every single day, and it will always work. And I quite like that.
Mm.
Because again, to me, it's the opposite of what you'd expect from. It makes it more unique in that aspect because you'd expect any big supercar to just blow up every 10 seconds. Which to me is kind of why I find this so entertaining. I can see your standpoint to it because yeah, it does lack a bit of drama. I think it does look cool, but it doesn't. It's not poster child. It's not a Zonda. It's not it's not a Countach.
It's not a wow factor. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the
And
the the, the
can I quickly
convertible does.
interject?
Oh sure, of course you
Top left photo is obviously of a black one, yes?
can.
Oh, excuse me. To me, from that exact angle, it looks like a Holden Maloo.
Yeah, I kind of see that. Damn it! I was meant
And
to
I love the Maloo.
I was trying to convince you to like these things, and you've convinced me to not like this. That's not. This has not gone well, has it? Okay. Should we try with the next car? See if I can win you around with this one.
Win me.
Okay.
I just make sure you have the receipt.
So, this is the Volkswagen XL1. Have you ever seen this before?
I have seen.
Okay, so do you know what the point of this car was?
If I can remember off the top of my head, it was to achieve 100 miles to the gallon.
100 kilometers on 1 liter of diesel, or
Well, there you go.
in layman's terms, that is 280 miles per gallon, whilst being roadworthy and practical. So the idea was this was meant to be a completely usable daily drivable car, but had to make 280 horsepower, miles per gallon. Um, and they started it in 2002, and this was what it finally looked like in 2011. And if I'm going to be perfectly honest, I have slightly broken the rules of this one because they did sell it to the public.
Eh, I did it twice. I wouldn't worry.
So technically, they only ever made 250 of them, and of the 250, only 200 were available to the public, and they cost 111,000 euros. So I'm gonna say it still counts as a concept car because it was never really sold properly as a real thing. But
That's reasonable.
so, like I said, the first concept came out in 2002, and this is the 2011 final one. So the way they built this was it used unpainted carbon fiber, an unpainted carbon fiber skin over a magnesium alloy subframe. They used parts made out of titanium, ceramic, carbon fiber, aluminium. Everything on this is as lightweight as it can possibly be. So it came in weighing at 795 kilos, which that is not very heavy at all.
That would need mooring down of
Mm.
a windy evening.
I can't imagine it would be particularly fun to drive in high winds because I drove my MR2, which is 950 kilos in Storm Eunice, and bloody hell, that was scary. You just suddenly find you'd be going down the road, and all of a sudden, oh, I'm pulling very heavily to the right. And this by the way, it's like polo size. Apart from the height, it's lower than a polo bike. It's only I wrote it down here. It's only 46.6 inches tall. So it's about a polo sized car being blown around in the wind, weighing that little. I can't see that as particularly safe feeling. Can you?
No. It's a similar story with the Terios because it is the height of the Eiffel Tower, yet as wide as a pound coin.
Yeah.
It does feel like you're driving a playing card.
It's it's a very very fun experience that. I will point out by the way that the first concept they made only weighed 220 kilos, which is ridiculous.
That's mad.
That's less than some motorbikes. By a long way. You could get into the first concept, and you'd still weigh less than a Honda Goldwing with someone on it. That is
Wow.
yeah, that's mental. Sorry, the Honda Goldwing without anyone on it. The Honda Goldwing completely naked. It's a brilliant piece of design. So that they actually made it really, really slippery, as you can probably tell. So the so they kept, like I said, it's about polar size, but it's really really low. They've capped off the wheels. They've made it really streamlined. You'll notice it hasn't got any wing mirrors. It's got these camera things, which is now what 10 years on. They're starting to do that in production cars for other companies as well. You notice. So this thing had a drag coefficient of 0.186. And for context, do you know the Honda Insight, the first one?
Yep.
When that was made and that was released, it had a drag coefficient of 0.25, and that was the slipperiest a car had ever been at the time, which is mad. Just goes to show just how slippery this thing was, you know. I think, in fact, this is about on par with the Bertoni cars, you know, the Bat cars from the Alfa Romeo episode a few weeks ago, if you remember correctly. If I remember correctly.
I do.
It also was a 2-liter diesel, 2-cylinder, 0.8 liter diesel engine, hybrid diesel, plug-in hybrid. Now,
Do you want to say those facts again in one full take?
yes, okay. I would pretend that I'm going to edit that out, but I can't be asked. So, we'll just pretend that didn't happen. So it had
Yeah, sure.
a 0.8 liter 2-cylinder turbo diesel plug-in hybrid drivetrain. Now, do you happen to remember what happened with Volkswagen around the time with its diesel engines?
Like it was petrol fence or Dieselgate or whatever it was called, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. So the MPG stats that this gives out, it is possible they may be slightly fudged, but we're going to hope that they're not for the sake of this. So it made about 47 horsepower straight to the rear wheels through a 7-speed DSG. So this would have been quite smooth to drive. And it had, I think it was, the electric motors made something like 27 horsepower on top. So it's about 70 horsepower. So with all these factors in mind, what MPG do you think this actually achieved? Bear in mind they were trying to get to 1 litre for 100 miles, which is 280 miles per gallon.
1.
Wow, that's useful. Is it because I said a lot of numbers at the same time and it shorted your brain out? Because I think it shorted mine out.
Now I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna go MPG for the sake of easiness. I can't speak English either. I want to say late 80s.
This made it to 310 miles per gallon, or 0.9 litres of diesel per 100 kilometres.
Jesus
That,
Christ, that would be. This is the reason why they are built for times like we are in now, with diesel
yeah.
being so expensive and petrol as it is. You can see why this was a thing and why this is a thing. It's just a shame it's not been again put into production.
I mean, they had the Audi A2, which is a similar kind of idea. I know the top end one of them could do 110 or something like that miles per gallon, which I always thought was mad. Mind you, it could only do 98 miles per hour because it was governed to that. I'm assuming on that front. So I know a lot of economy cars have really really hard tires because obviously there's less rolling resistance. Really hard tires don't like going very fast. They tend to get really annoyed. So I imagine it was governed at that for that reason. I know they made a performance version of this at some point, which is slightly mad. So perhaps that one could go a bit faster. But yeah, it's an interesting
The
car.
performance version adds 2 miles per hour.
No, they made like a full actual sport racing version concept. I don't think it ever went anywhere because I think they made that and then obviously Dieselgate happened and then suddenly, oh, actually we never made diesel. I don't know what you're on about.
Yeah, just pretend that they're attracted noises. Well, it's not us, promise.
Yeah. Not the best moves on you there, Volkswagen. Um, It could also do 0 to 62, by the way, in 12 seconds. So it's slower than an Alfa Romeo 147. Admittedly, did do a lot better on petrol, but arguably not as good looking to arrive. I don't know. I'm mixed on the. I wonder what your opinions on the styling are.
I like them in a sort of Cyberpunk 2077 or Blade Runner 2049 aspect. I like the fact that it is slippery
Mm.
gives it good styling. It
Yeah.
looks svelte. It's a teardrop, effectively.
Yeah.
Um, and teardrop shaped cars like the Talbot Largo, for example, are very, very pretty. This is sort of crammed into, I mean, yeah, as you say, it was 2011, but you could sell this today and I wouldn't bat an eyelid. I'd say, okay,
Mm.
yeah, that's part of the current Volkswagen lineup. That could be part next to an
Yeah.
ID3.
I think
And
the covered wheels would make it stand out a bit, but beyond that, yeah, it seems not amazingly outlandish in that aspect.
yeah, no, it's not. It, again, it's a bit of a funny one. It's outlandish in the sense of it's slippery, and that's because it's designed to be, and the wheels are covered, and you don't see cars now that have got covered rear wheels.
Mm.
Um, but you can't really make a personality from that, if that makes sense. It's not
Yeah.
drama, but it is drama. It's just subjective drama.
Mm. I like a lot about this car. I think it's I don't know about the styling more. I think it and I guess I'm because I'm looking at it from a modern perspective where we've got things so well on the very high end of the scale we've got things like the McLaren Speedtail. Um, this to me looks a lot like a Honda Insight but made by VW,
Yeah.
but then costing six figures. There's a lot of things. Again, there's a lot of things that it does that I like. If you look here, you can see the seats are staggered, so they're actually partially behind one another. So if you sit in the passenger seat, your shoulder is behind the driver's shoulder, which I think is a clever idea. I think that's actually a really clever way of bringing the overall space down. Apparently, it's a very comfortable. It's very loud apparently to drive because do you ever watch regular car reviews?
I do indeed. I love regular car reviews.
Well, he drove one of these at the Peterson Auto Museum, and apparently the diesel motor will just kick in occasionally, and it is insanely loud inside because it just sounds like you're in a tractor because it's just a two-cylinder diesel. Um, so it's not the most refined of cars to go in. I like it. I wouldn't want one. Again, this was my attempt to convince us both that we actually do like VW. It's not quite working out, is it?
Politely, no. Again, as I've said with Volkswagen, I've got respect, and it has achieved something phenomenally good. And it can prove that we're at a point where we can use and make this technology. Yes, it's
Mm.
pricey, but you look at electric cars, they used to be monstrously expensive. They still are, don't get me wrong, but they're a damn sight cheaper than they used to be 10 years ago.
Well,
Um,
for
and,
sorry, go on.
well, it's no, go on. It's like with Daihatsu. I know they did a concept which was very similar to this, and again, it looks well. They did three, and it looked very similar to the Insight and to this. It was literally designed to be the
Yeah,
most efficient car as possible.
I guess you can't really get around the fact if you want to make a car aerodynamic, you have to kind of make it this sort of shape. So there is that. I also think, because I think the big issue we've got these modern days is we're trying to tell everyone, no, you've got to drive an electric car because it's the only way to be good to the environment. And actually, it's not at all. Because you're still driving a 2.5 ton
No,
SUV. A Tesla is crap for the environment. It's really, really bad. People think, oh, it's electric, it's clean. A, where do you think you get your power from? B, do you have any idea how bad the lithium mining is for the environment? And I say this, this XL1 does have lithium batteries in it, but this is still a diesel engine, and it does burn things, but it's 310 miles per gallon, and it does this. It's not necessarily a particularly experimental car. These are all things we've known since the 50s. It uses tried and tested techniques and ideas, but it does them in a way that it goes, right, well, what makes a car good and fuel efficient? It's slippery, it's light. And that's all that really matters. I think that's what we should be doing a lot more often. Because again, if you're driving a
Mm,
2.5 ton SUV, there's no way that vehicle is going to be good for the environment. You can make it good for the environment for a 2.5 ton SUV. It's still a 2.5 ton SUV. This is what we should be doing: lightweight,
mm,
aerodynamic. And okay,
yeah,
I know this is a
exactly.
very specific, this is only a two-seater car, and you have to be all into the eco for this to have a 110,000 car, 10,000 euro car, just to save money on fuel. It doesn't quite work that way when you've bought this as an oddity at that price range. It's meant to be something that saves you money, but if you have the money to buy one, you don't care about saving money.
Exactly.
Perhaps you care about saving the environment, but again, by this stage, I guess you've got things like Tesla coming out. I know they did. They didn't struggle to sell these. In fact, they had more orders than they actually made cars. You had to enter a raffle to actually have one. So there is that. But I don't. I don't know. Again, I don't love the XL1, but I absolutely respect it, and I do think this is exactly where car design should have gone. As a projection, as a proposal for the future, I think this is bang on the money. This is what it should have been, and the fact we've gone away from that, I think, is wrong.
Yeah, well, I think I was told, and it makes sense, frankly. Excuse me. Um, if you want to be kind to the polar bears and not club baby seals to death, um, running an old car into the ground is more environmentally friendly than buying a brand new one because an old car has already gone through all of the worst worst polluting elements of making the metal, making
Mm.
batteries, making this,
Because
that, and the
the
other.
production stage is the
They've already
worst
gone
pollution
through that.
stage.
That's it, exactly, like it's already been through that. So whatever is produced out the back end of it, yeah, okay, you still got that, but it's it's cleaner. Like a car's lifetime will never ever, when it's running, equate to the amount of pollution made making it. And it's like with hybrids and batteries. Um, Hybrids to me are the worst way you can go forward because you've got the worst of both worlds
Mm.
in terms of pollution. If you're looking at it from an eco-green, eat your veggies kind of take, but they have their benefits, limitations. Everything does, but it
Yeah,
again, like with
if I remember
this being a
correctly,
Volkswagen,
a Prius takes something like 30 years to. If you bought a Prius and a Hummer H2, it takes something like 30 years for the Prius to suddenly become more economically friendly, ecologically friendly to the environment than the Hummer,
mm,
purely because of the building sort of costs to the environment. Sorry, continue.
yeah. So like with this, it proves that efficient driving can be done, um, but it comes one at a premium, um, and two at a premium for pollution because this has had, as you say, lithium-ion batteries,
Mm.
so they've had to be mined. Then the diesel engines have to be made. So for example, there's platinum in the catalytic converter, so that's an expensive material to find
Well,
anyway.
yeah.
You've got the production stages in terms of making the entire body, the entirety of the electrics, the plastics, everything. It's the same with every car. It's really not a good thing. But if you've got something that incorporates two engines, you've got twice as much to make and
Mm.
twice as much to produce in terms of pollutants. And it just doesn't make sense. If you can run an old car, for example, off synthetic fuel, because I know Porsche have sort of dipped their toes in
Yes,
this.
and
Um,
the Japanese car companies have teamed up to develop a synthetic fuel now as well.
exactly, and that's the way forward. It's not this electric battery nonsense. It's what you've already got. Make that last.
I think, well,
Frankly,
because I do think, obviously, I agree with you in the sense that I think we should be buying more. Because the solution to conspicuous consumption is never more conspicuous consumption. People like to think, oh, actually, I'm doing the world a lot of good by buying a new car every 3 years. You're not. You're killing the world faster than you possibly could. I say this, the longest I've owned a car is about 2.5 years, but in fairness, I tend to buy cars at the end of their life cycles, so there is that. But
Ditto.
but I think if you're going to buy a new car, I think if we started having this design philosophy that the XL1 has, again, lightweight, efficient, and perhaps looking at things like hydrogen. Hydrogen stations. I think we've only got something like 8 or something fuel stations for hydrogen in the entire country. So I know hydrogen hasn't got the best infrastructure, to say the least. But if you made something like this that ran on hydrogen, all it does is it burns water. You could have it so it does, electric, but obviously through electrolysis, or you could have it so it does a hydrogen internal combustion engine, which is, I think, technically cleaner. I'm not 100% sure on that front though, so don't quote me on it. But again, you just have this philosophy that the whole design is meant to be, you know, clean and nice to the environment, not something like, again, a big 2.5 ton SUV, which you just put batteries under. It's still a massive, heavy vehicle full of, heavy materials. You've not tried to be good to the environment there at all. You just said you are because you made it electric. That's one of the things that really pisses me off with Tesla. Because Tesla, if you want to make your car good for the environment, then okay, so why are you giving it these massive, heavy, what are they called? X-wing doors or Falcon doors, whatever they are.
Mm.
You know what I mean? You've got a car that's already suffering with range anxiety. Why are you making it heavier?
Yeah,
It boggles my
exactly.
mind. A lot of these electric cars, especially when you see someone driving around in. Did you watch the last series of Top Gear? And they had 3 electric SUVs. And
Oh, that was oh the
mm,
Polestar, didn't they?
yeah, I think the Polestar looks kind of cool, but
I like the Polestar.
look at the size of them. There's no
They're
way.
huge.
Yeah, that you can't do anything for the environment good with a car that big. You just can't. There's no getting around the size of it. Hell, even just from just the roadway, the amount of extra roadway something that heavy puts on the road is insane. It's massive compared to this. This probably doesn't do much more damage than the bloody bike. I mean, look at the size of the wheels.
Mm.
They're like little biscuit tins. So again, I think as an actual what the future should have been, this is absolutely the right idea. And I think, unfortunately, VW being ahead of their time again, or sorry, VAG being very ahead of their time again, but not quite getting the right time. Because they did
Mm.
the Audi A2 as well, and that much lower scale, again, quite expensive because it's expensive materials, but those things are brilliant. Ugly, don't
Mm.
get me wrong, but they, again, I think the top trim one can do something like 110 miles per gallon, and that is just a flat. That's not electric at all. That is a pure diesel engine. 110 miles per gallon.
That's well, they was incredibly light as well because I believe it was the
For
first car in the world to be made entirely of aluminium.
I think you are correct. I might be wrong, but I think you are correct. I think it's like the first major production car at the very least to do it.
Yeah, and the mass production one, yeah.
But yeah, again, this is the problem I've got with VW is they tend to be very very ahead of their time with a lot of ideas, but then they play it safe most of the time.
They go, look at this, and then never have it
Look at what we could do. We're not gonna though. But
again.
I guess you got to go where the money is, and obviously, and again, a lot of people ordered these, so there was money in it. But again, only for your sort of rich and famous. I think this everyone who was a celebrity in the early 2000s bought a Prius, even though they're kind of terrible. Um, but I think this would have been the Prius replacement had they mass produced it. So these would have
Yeah.
belonged to exclusively wankers, which is a shame. But I think
Big shame.
to sort of wrap my final thoughts, I like this to a point. I think okay, there's some parts about it that it doesn't. I don't. If I saw one go past me on the street, I would be excited because I know how rare it is and how likely I'm not to ever see one again. But if they were common and I saw one, I'd be like, oh, that's cool. It's XL1. But I wouldn't be excited necessarily. But I think these are absolutely a brilliant idea, and I think the execution has gone off really, really well with them, provided they haven't lied in a Dieselgate kind of way. But
Yeah, of course.
yeah, I think the actual thing they've made is brilliant. What are
Yeah,
your final thoughts?
it's it's a technological marvel, and that's what it aspired to be. It's achieved that and has run with it in spades, but it's not here. If it was so, I mean, yes, of course they did produce very, very limited numbers, but
Mm,
this is somewhat the way forward.
mm,
If you really fine tune, um, for the environment's sake, because the technology is there, it's been proven.
mm.
But for the environment's sake, it would need tweaking. But it's clever, very, very, very clever. But that's about it.
Do you know what annoys me about it,
I'd be.
actually? Sorry
Go on.
to interrupt.
No, 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 go on.
Is the fact that they never really use this technology again. That's what kind of really annoys me about it. Because, right, I like sports cars, okay? If you put a big engine in a Honda Insight, and this happens a lot, people take the batteries and the engine out and they put like a higher booster engine, they go lightning quick. Because when you want to make a car go quick, one of the easiest, the hardest obstacles to beat is the air. You make a car slippery like this, it goes through the air really easily. It annoys me that they didn't try and adopt this. And again, I know this is a very this is taking the idea to the absolute limits. You know, I can't expect them to do this full scale production on all your Golfs, your Siroccos, all that. But they didn't seem they seemed to come up with this brilliant idea and go, this is the future, and then they went, actually we're going to do the same as everyone else with the big heavy SUVs. They had a real they had a hand on the ball here, and they just passed it off to the opposite team, and I think that's a real shame more than anything.
Yeah.
Mm.
No, certainly.
So I didn't win you round with the W12. I haven't really won you round with this. I'm seeing either. So
Hmm?
I've got one last one last chance to try and get you. Should we see if I can get you with the last one?
I'm ready.
All right. It's not loading. It's a Golf.
Screen. Oh, yes. Now we're talking.
Finally, I
Yes,
got
yes,
one.
yes.
So I'm assuming from that you know exactly what this one is. Then
I know exactly what this is. If you would not mind me interjecting.
feel free.
This is the Golf W12. So this is the same twin turbo W12 that they used in the Continental and the
It
Nado Synchro, whatever it was called previously.
it is indeed.
And and they went mad with it. None of the buttons worked.
Nope.
Most of it was broken,
So
and
I've actually got a list of all the
it
things that don't work on here. So I've got
go on.
the paddle shifters. They don't work. They're just for show. The stereo doesn't work. The hazards they don't work. My favorite is that it does actually have AC. It's got all the air conditioning piped up and ready to go. It's just they didn't connect the controls to it, so they don't do anything. So yeah, that's
Aha! Let's make this and not let you use it.
yeah, which is hilarious. So they got all the added weight, but no actual functionality, which is great. Sorry, continue. You know this one clearly.
Um, it was a wayward bastard. Frankly, it would not go around the corner at all,
Nope.
and it'd go around sideways effectively.
Yep.
Um, and it's just epic. Like this is cool. This is your sort of max power hot hatches that have been given whacking great engines from something that is
Mm,
ridiculous, and it works. That kind of thing excites me because taking a small car, giving it lots and lots of big spoolie boy power, it's mad, and it reminds you of how to be a kid. And
yeah.
I mean
This looks
that's
exactly
what I
like
would
what
have
a
drawn.
kid would made a Golf fast do. They would have gone, I'm gonna put a big Bentley engine in the back and a Lamborghini gearbox, and it's gonna be wide, and it's gonna be so. To give some context to anyone who doesn't know what this is, so I'm assuming you remember this from that one episode of Top Gear years and years
I
ago.
do, and I
Um,
remember it from Blur. I used to play Blur quite a lot on the
was it in
Xbox, and
blue? Is it?
I it was, and I used this the most often when I had the chance.
I remember Blur had the super van, which if we ever do Ford, I'm going to be
Yep,
covering the super van absolutely.
those are sick.
Yeah, but anyway, this was unveiled at the 2007 GTI Festival. So for those of you who don't know, they have a GTI Festival in somewhere in Germany, I can't remember where it is now, but it's like all GTI owners come and meet together, and they all look at each other and they they hang out. It's a cool time. I've seen some clips from the festival. It actually looks like a really really fun time. Um, 8 weeks before, somebody in the office went, "Oh, we are going to the GTI Festival. We should take a new car. You have 8 weeks. Make it insane." So in 8 weeks, they managed to just like fumble this together, and it. My favorite thing about this as well is it's 100% parts bin. This is the one
Yeah,
advantage to being Volkswagen Autogruppen, I think it is, or VAG, is that obviously you own Audi, you own Bentley, you own Lamborghini, you own Porsche. You have all these, so you've got a really big parts bin to just nab from. So it is. I'm gonna so let's have a look. The bi-turbo W12, as you said, is from the Continental GT. The front brakes are from an Audi RS4. The rear brakes and the transaxle are from a Lamborghini Gallardo. It made 641 brake horsepower. The technical name for this is the Golf GTI W12 650. So it's 650 PS, which is why obviously it has that name. So this Golf could do 0 to 62 in 3.7 seconds.
that's mad.
It's
From a
ridiculous.
Golf.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, it's 2.7 inches lower than the regular Golf. It's got massive wheels compared. It's 160 millimeters wider. So they tried their best to make it look like a normal Golf. They haven't quite succeeded in that aspect because it does look a bit insane. It's yeah, this thing's mad. It is absolutely mental. And again, 100% parts bin, which is usually my favorite type of concept car or any performance car really. When they've just gone, we'll just use this and this and this. That'll do. I mean, that's why I have the MR2 because it is just a Celica but backwards.
Yeah, basically.
But yeah, this thing would do 202 miles an hour.
From a
202
Golf.
in a Golf. Yeah, I know. And I just, it's one of the most ridiculous ideas. And the fact that somebody had this idea and they fully just committed to it. They went, yeah, no, we'll do that. That's what we'll do. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, Apparently they couldn't keep the rear seats in with the engine. So you'll notice they actually had to remove the rear seats. I can't think why they couldn't fit the seats on top personally. Um,
Yeah, just carry them flat so that way they have a sort of a massage on the way to hitting the tree at 400 mile an
I mean, it would definitely be a very heated seat, put it that way.
hour.
But I love this thing. I think this is just brilliant.
What intrigues me is I don't know if you can tell. I might be wrong, but I think I'm right in saying this. They've moved the rear windows inwards and they've allowed a duct basically past the glass in between the C pillar so that it has better aerodynamics.
I think that's for. I can't tell if that's for aerodynamics or for cooling. I can't remember now. I
I'd
think.
probably say cooling, but
Yeah, look. Actually, looking
I've
at it
I've
from
only just
here,
noticed that.
if you look in the top left-hand one, I think if you look, it seems to go straight through. So you might be right in the fact it is aerodynamics. But everything about this car is mad. I mean, it's got the little Audi R8 duct at the bottom. If you looked as well, I've just noticed. It is just 100% just parts bin. They've just nicked it from everything possible. This is a proper Skunksworks project. I kind of like Skunksworks.
Proper
Skunkworks? Yeah.
skunk works, yeah.
Yeah. Because, I mean, the BMW 1M, that was a Skunkworks project.
Yep.
The original GTI was a Skunkworks project. I think seeing people just kind of in their spare time going, fuck it, let's just build something mad. Have you ever seen the BMW M3 parts pickup trucks?
I have not.
So BMW's skunk, the M division, their skunk works. They decided they needed to like carry parts around, and they had a E30 M3, and they just cut the
Hmm.
back off and turned it into a pickup truck, and they used that for years. And then they made like a more official one. Then, and again another pickup truck. I think when the E92 or something. I don't know the BMW chassis codes very well, but yeah,
Yeah.
they did that. So they have these two different pick. I think the E31's been retired now, but they have just pickup trucks made from M class cars all the time, just because they kind of get bored. All because someone got bored one day and went, let us cut the roof off and see if it works as a pickup.
Let's use this in a practical way.
I
Oh,
just
that's fantastic.
it's
It
insane.
again that sort of puts me in mind of the Holden Maloo HSV.
Another brilliant vehicle.
Just, another I
I
think it's
love
something
a
like
Ute.
650 horsepower from
Oh,
a
absolutely ridiculous.
Corvette.
I, it's slightly different. So it is a Corvette engine um, base, but they're slightly different in Australia. They adapt it some way so it can run on veggie fuel, and it's also slightly reworked if I remember correctly. So it's not quite the Corvette engine, but I think it's even slightly more powerful in some ways as well, which is even madder because just Holden is an insane company.
Mm,
But
no, definitely.
But yeah, again, like every Skunkworks project, this is not very refined at all. So, as you said earlier, when it was on Top Gear, it basically just wouldn't go around corners. But in the high speeds, in the straights, it was blisteringly quick. Um, it managed to do a 129.6 lap around the Top Gear test track, which I'm trying to think what would have done. Let's compare it to a BMW M3, for example. Top Gear test track lap
Well, I remember
time.
the MG X Power SV. That was 128.7.
The F80 M3 did 121.6, so it's slower. It's slower on the Top Gear test track than M3. Again, no refinement at all. 8 weeks start to finish this project from idea to unveiling. So absolutely fair play to them for being able to get this massive engine in the back of. Because I mean, look how much work has gone into actually making that function at all. I mean, they didn't even have time to plug in the aircon. That is, it's an insane thing. So the
It's
fact,
dedication.
yeah, and again, you could tell this is an absolute act of passion for the people who made this. This is something they absolutely because like you said, it's like if a 12-year-old drew a golf. This is what and for me, I think that is what cars should try to be more often. I think sports cars kind of miss that a lot these days.
Yeah, no, certainly so.
You look at McLaren, for example. I know McLaren has a really, and I know nobody who is 12 is actually buying McLarens and blah, 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 blah. No one wants to buy McLaren collector wise because there's so many of them and they all kind of look the same. And all right, yes, they're very technically impressive, but people aren't really, drawn in by them because, again, they all look the same and the look isn't particularly inspiring. I'd say all the current Ferraris, I couldn't give a toss. You have to be having something mad. I remember this from when I was a kid, as do you, obviously. This is the sort of car that when you're a 12-year-old kid, this is exactly what you see and want to have when you're older. You want that madness, and I think that's why a lot of younger kids these days don't really care about cars because we don't have anything that mental. Sure,
No,
we've got performance, but there's no madness in the styling.
no, there's no joie de vivre. I mean,
Mm.
for me, any car that has flared wheel arches is an instant win.
I mean, that was one of my absolute favorite things about the Alpha. Is the rear arches were slightly flared, and because it was old and a bit saggy at the back, it had cambered itself. And I remember thinking that was the absolute coolest thing I'd ever seen. Is just this tiny bit of camber underneath a flared wheel arch, and it just made you feel like you were driving a race car.
Yeah, and it's a bit similar story with me when I had the Saab and harking back to when we did the Saab episode. Um, if you look at it very, very carefully, because I had the sport wagon, or the sport combi, depending on your market, if you look at it from the front wheel arches are flared. You look at it
Mm,
from the back, and it's pretty much slab-sided.
mm,
So it's basically a funnel shape when you look at it from the front and from the back, and it's the most practical space from the smallest space possible. And it had, I mean, the front flared wheel arches, it gives it a butch presence.
mm.
And well, I think the 9.3 Sport Wagon is the best looking of the 9.3s personally. Not biased at all because I had one, but
Do you know what car company I think
anything with
does?
flared haunches.
do you know what company I think actually does the flared arches really well is Alpha. Because if you look at the Mito and the Giulietta specifically, if you look at them from the back, they've got really flared arches. I saw a test drove that Mito. I remember I drove up to the driveway and I looked over and I was looking at it going, bloody hell, it looks almost like a rally car from the back. And the Giulietta, the QV line from the back, that looks like a bloody rally car too. It's again, flared arches. They're just cool. Make more cars with flared arches.
No, agreed.
It's one of the things actually that the MR2 doesn't have. It's very flat sided. And don't get me wrong, I think where the MR2 kind of has the advantage of is people who aren't car people like it. So it helps when you're trying to impress people because you show up in a very cute, unintimidating sports car. I have ruined that slightly with the stickers I've stuck on it, but we move past that. But yeah, flared arches, they're good for the soul. And this is, I mean, how wide are they? I think they come about a foot off the car. Look at them. The whole bottom half of the car is flared.
Yeah, it looks like it's been styled by someone from British Aerospace. It looks awesome, and
It
I
looks
love
like
it.
it's off Need for Speed, cover art. This doesn't look like a real car, but it is real
No,
somehow. Barely functioning, but it is very real, and that to me is yes. This
yeah,
is
no,
so. I think it's safe to say that with this one, I have won you round to saying that VW can do bonkers, interesting, cool things.
they can, and you've only proved it once.
Well, I mean, I convinced myself with the XL1. I had convinced myself with the W12, but you unconvinced me, you dickweed. Um,
You're very welcome.
I mean, I guess that's why I have you on here, but still, yeah. But either way, I think again, VW, they don't make anything mad. Okay, they have things like the Golf R, but as powerful as the Golf R is, it's not bonkers. You know what I mean? It's not intimidating. It's not. I know people
It's
really
just a
like the
car.
yeah, people really like the Golf R. To me, it's just a very fast appliance.
Exactly, yeah.
Mm.
It's a fridge with massive Spoody Boys power, frankly.
Exactly. If you were going to make a really powerful Golf, I think this is exactly the sort of thing you need to. Okay, I'm not saying necessarily you have to make it mid-engined but you kind of need that drama of the big flared arches and the silly massive wheels and you know what I mean. That to me should be what a Golf R is. If you're gonna have your product leader, the one at the start of the line, and again, very very capable car. I'm very well aware of that. I know it's very very quick. I know they make a lot of power. Do I want one? I mean, the perfect
Mm.
comparison. Let's compare it to a different car company that makes a very powerful four-wheel drive hatchback. Would you have the Golf R or the GR Yaris?
GI Yaris.
Because the GR Yaris has
Was I supposed to say something?
I was hoping you go flared arches, but
Ah, yes. Flat arches. Sorry. I thought
didn't.
you meant something like specs wise, because I'm like, wait, it's a 3-cylinder. I know that. I just haven't done much reading.
No,
Shit.
it's got the obviously it has the big flared arches and it's got the it looks like a rally car. It looks like a 12-year-old drew it. I think we need
They're
to
both
have
mad.
yeah, and again the Golf R just looks like a Golf. It's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard to
It's
care.
a Golf with a bit of spiky bits on it. That's
Yeah,
frankly it.
I struggle to be enthused. And the other thing as well is,
Whereas this gets my pulse racing.
exactly. You look at this, and again, I'm smiling looking at it. You know what I mean? It's. I don't think you have a cool car if 12-year-olds don't look at you. You know what I mean? It's that. I know that's such
Yeah.
a. Because I picked my little brother up from school, and the MR2 has got a broken exhaust at the moment, and I have a little sort of fan club now that wait for me to come past because I go past them at full tilt, and I started to pop it off the rev limiter now, so I'm going past, going wah, bah, 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 and they just see this black sports car flying past them. I'm I'm only going because obviously my brother's school is right next to the national speed limit road, so I'm going up to the speed limit as I'm getting out type thing, and they just sort of stand at the side of the road waiting to watch me because there's three boys that do it all the time. There's one boy that chases me out the gates now to hear it, which I think is really cool. But if your
And
car, sorry, go on.
no, I was gonna say if you can wow um teenagers and young kids, you've
Exactly,
given them the spark that wants,
exactly.
that you give them the spark of automotive fun and ownership.
And I think that's what, because I think we were really quite fortunate growing up when we did, because I still think a lot of older cars are more interesting, but I think actually cars were the best when we were kids. You look at my MR2. I think that is just the cross section where we're still having very manual cars. I mean, my MR2 is hydraulic steering. It's got ABS just about. It's fully manual throttle body. There's no traction control. There's no ABS. There's no stability control. There's none of that. There's no cruise control. It is a fully manual car to drive, but you still have some of the modern amenities. You've still got a decent stereo, and you still got a decently powerful engine. I think a lot of the older cars had no power at all, and they were fully manual. I think for my money, the Porsche 996, the Ferrari F360 to a, all cars from that era. A lot of people are starting to look at them now and go, perhaps that was the best time for motoring. And again, it makes sense because this was what 2007. This so very much fits into that. I think we were quite fortunate to grow up in the age where cars were still quite mad, but they were still they had the right amount of sensibility, but they were still bonkers in the way they looked. You had the Clio V6, you had the Clio
You had
182.
the Volvo C30
Yeah,
Polestar.
yeah, bonkers looking things, ridiculous facts on them, and whatever, and great fun to drive because they're still fairly manual. But it's before you get all the big screens that take over everything, and we're gonna have electric steering and electric throttle, and you have 15 computers that stop you from sliding the car about, and also it's now too powerful. So if you try and drift it, you're going to crash. And we've not really put because I think that's another problem as well. Another thing with sort of cars of when we were young as well, they were still not very powerful. I think something
Yeah,
like a Golf R has too much power. Just play great for a track, don't get me wrong, but I had a spirited drive in Mexico with someone in an RS3 the other day on some back roads, and every straight line, obviously, he flew away from me. But we came to the corners, and he had to brake so heavily because he's like, you can tell he's not confident enough to whip it round, but also it's so heavy. Whereas
yeah.
every one of these corners, I'm bombing right behind. I'm not having to brake at all. I am right up his bumper again, even though he's got some 350 brake horsepower. I've only got 140 because my car can handle, and it's lightweight enough, and it's not powerful enough that I'm breaking traction just by pushing it harder on a corner.
Mm.
And I think that's again. I think I miss the days when stuff like this was the really mad powerful cars. Because how much power did I say this had? 610. You can get that in a Golf
Something like
R.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, you can get that in a Golf R fairly easily. A couple of added mods or whatever. Yeah, I think when you start having that as accessible as it is, you kind of lose a lot of the fun and the drama of it.
Mm.
And as a result,
No, certainly.
my little brother doesn't doesn't really care about cars. He does from me. He enjoys cars from me, but he doesn't. He doesn't obsess about them. Me and my brother did when we were kids. Me more than my brother. So I'm 23. My brother's 20. My other one's 11 now. Um, I know I obsess most about of the three of us, but my the elder of the two did care a lot about cars as well as a kid, and still does now. Um,
Good.
my little brother doesn't really get the appeal as much, and I think that's because, again, you go out now and what cars you see? You got a VW Passat like we've got in our drive. It just it's there. You got a Nissan Juke and it's just there. And even the mad cars we have now, they're quite subdued in the way they look, and they have ridiculous power. But that's all that matters to people is the power. So if you don't care about going fast in a straight line, you don't care because What if you're gonna care about going fast in a straight line? Are you gonna covet a Golf R? No, you're gonna covet a Bugatti Veyron. You're gonna, you know,
Yeah,
Ferrari 612 Superfast. So I think,
not
unfortunately, we're possibly the last generation of car enthusiasts in that aspect. If not us,
it's
then the one after us, definitely.
yeah, no, certainly because it's a sad time because I'll never forget the Top Gear episode where Clarkson's driving an Aston Martin V12
Mm.
Vantage,
Yeah, I know the
and he
exact one you're on
said
about.
it makes me say again.
So I know the exact one you're on about.
Yeah, and he doesn't say a word, and he says it makes me sad because this is sort of the beginning of an end. And yeah, okay, that was however many years ago, and yeah, okay, we've still had marvels take the McLaren Senna. That's
Yeah.
fantastically cool, and
Mm.
proves we are,
I think we're
it's
now
not dying.
we're peak petrol now. I think.
Yeah, but it's peak technology, not peak fun.
Yeah.
Um, you take the Golf, this Golf 650. Um, it's mad and somewhat realistic
Yeah.
in the sense of you could do this through a
Yeah.
normal Golf. I
I
mean,
mean,
yeah,
I
you'd have
mean,
to get your hands on a Bentley unit, but
the thing is,
it's
you say this.
it's
This is exact.
achievable.
Yeah, other companies have done this. I mean, Renault did this with the Renault Clio V6, and they did it with the Renault 5.
The
Yeah,
MG
MG.
thingy,
Yeah, that one. They did it with that. It is
the rally thing.
possible. Yeah. And funny enough, I think the 6R4 actually had similar power to this, which is mental.
Mm,
And then obviously Peugeot with the TI6 maybe. So this is something that people have done many times before.
not anymore.
And it's just, again, it feels like the bankers and the finance people, they're in charge of the companies, and they've said, no, no, no. If you're gonna have something fast, it'll be fast, but it's powerful. But it's a regular Golf. You don't get to have. And I know the Golf R team is very big, and they care a lot about how the car drives. I still don't care. You know what I mean?
No,
It might be great on a
yeah,
track. I couldn't think of anything I'd rather drive less on a back road. Now, in fairness, I haven't driven one, and if someone wants to let me drive theirs, and please do let me change my mind. I will. I'm going to be launching car reviews soon, so I'll happily review it, and if I am wrong, I will admit it to the world. But I just give me something absolutely bonkers and uncontrollable like this, or give me something lightweight, you know, underpowered, but still very fun because it's very manual. Again, probably the Xl1. I imagine that would probably be fairly fun to drive on a back road actually, because
mm,
it's lightweight. You can just keep it planted. But I had to explain to a lot of people when I drove the Fiat 500 why I preferred driving the Fiat 500 to something like a Golf, and they're like, "Oh, but it's 500, it's a girl's car." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you are aware it doesn't weigh anything. It's basically square, and I can keep it planted in every single corner, and it's fine. That's fun. You know what I mean? I think we lack that. It's a shame we've got
yeah.
onto a bit of a somber
Because
note to end this.
well, it might be somber, but it's true, and it's the same with Volkswagen. It's
Hmm.
a car company.
Yeah,
End of.
and I think
They can prove that they have their funny 5 moments, but everyone does. But there are some that do it, and that is their personality trait. They can be bat crap crazy constantly.
I think we may possibly see some hope for VW with the maintenance department because they are now kind of trying to be, hey, look how ahead of times we are with our electric stuff. Look how impressive this is. I mean, they did that. Is it the RDR, the Pikes Peak Racer? That's
Yeah,
cool. That's very cool. And obviously they've got all arms along the branch. I still think they have too much in the way of they've got too many generic Audis, they've got too many generic Volkswagens, they've got too many generic whatever branch you have. But I think we're going to start seeing VW giving us some at least very interesting electric stuff because I think a lot of the car companies have now gone, hey, this electric stuff means we can kind of design stuff free reign because we haven't got to work around parts sharing and what have you. It's very
mm,
easy to electric platform is very easy to build on because you can just kind of build on top of it. You don't really have to worry about a lot of things. So design is coming back. Have you seen that new electric Opel Manta?
that looks cool.
I know, that's gorgeous. And again, things like that, like the new Renault 5 they're doing. Have you seen that one as well?
Oh, that's got me excited. I really,
Exactly.
really want that to be a thing.
And you get that, and also there's a company called Alpha, spelt EALF, sorry, ALPHA, and they do
Yeah,
basically purely 60s and 70s inspired electric cars.
yeah, I've seen that,
Yeah.
and they're cool. Bit
I,
divided on some styling cues, but they do look cool still.
yeah, I think there's one that looks like a Ford Escort mixed with a Beetle, and I love the front and I love the back, but I do not like the side profile. But
Nope, agreed.
getting away from it a bit, I think we're starting to see now that a lot of car companies and VW, especially, are starting to realize, hey, we can design cool things. So I think like they have the ID Buzz, the bus concept thing. I think that looks kind of cool. That's
Hmm.
interesting. I don't think I'd want one, but I appreciate the fact they've gone with a retro style.
Hmm.
But I'm hoping that VW gives us some more interesting concepts, so we can do another one of these and hopefully prove ourselves wrong.
Hmm.
Hopefully, but
We can hope and pray.
hmm. But yeah, I think that's gonna be it for today because I think we've just gone on and just moped about how sad we are for the future again. Um, have you got any announcements, Will?
Well, I have not for my personal sake, but I do know what I'll be picking for
Oh,
my podcast choice.
come on then, hit me up. What have we got?
Subaru.
Oh yeah, boy.
I well, give people context. Um, to Alex, you know especially. Um, I love an Outback.
I
I
do.
always wanted an Outback, and I've
I
made
personally want the
myself.
legacy, but I can respect the other. I
I've
mean, same car, but yours is lifted, mine's
exactly,
squat.
and I mean, I'm sorry, but like a lifted Outback,
They're very
with a
very
proper
cool.
roof rack,
Yeah.
yeah, brace of Sibbies and PIAA fog lights. Yes, please take all of my money now. I'll have 18. Um,
Mm,
excuse me. I'm talking about the one. It was 2003 when it was on
yeah.
Top Gear.
I know the exact one you're on
Um,
about.
because yeah, James May was reviewing it as the Toffs car, and well, not to be one's poshness and have my finger shoved up my nose, but um, I do country pursuits. I go beating. I work the land. I don't need a four-wheel drive system, but
Sorry.
posh twat. Um, but it's I've grown up in the country, and I've known someone who's had a Forester. They got rid of it and got a Skoda Yeti. Very good car, and religiously endowed by Top Gear again. Um, but I love the Outback, and that's what got me into Subarus. If I could pick a new car, if I had a lot, not a lot of money, but if I had more money and I needed a car, it would probably be either a Legacy, or if I could scrimp to make that money work, it would probably be an Outback. And
I actually considered buying a Legacy for my next car. I was going to buy the Legacy Spec B.
oh,
And
yes,
that,
please.
yes.
Oh,
Now, by the way, to anyone who doesn't know, that's a Legacy Spec B, which is still you can get that as an estate. It's a 3-liter flat six, naturally aspirated, but it's the WRX Rally drivetrain, so it's a very 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 quick car.
and infinite respect, and I love them. They're so cool,
Hmm.
and that's why I'm picking Subaru. Um, I won't obviously reveal what ones, but um,
I'm very excited because I love Subaru, but I've never looked into their concepts before, so I'm very excited about this.
we shall
Announcements
endeavour.
from my end. In that case, I've got merchandise coming out. So the order's in, and within 2 weeks it should be being dispatched. There's going to be some stickers, guys. You're going to be able to buy
Wait,
stickers off me.
I'm
Um,
gonna stick them to my face.
I don't know how well they'll stick to your face. They don't stay there for long, I imagine. But
I
in
will make it work.
in 2 weeks, I should be able to show them off. I don't necessarily be here in 2 weeks because they are coming from America, but they are being drawn up as we speak. I'm very very excited for that. And as of next week, we may possibly be having a new third host. We're still working out the details, but yeah, that's exciting. So, that's it from me, Will. I don't know if you've got anything else to add.
Nope, I have nothing else.
All right. In that case, I don't know what time zone you're watching in, but thank you for watching. Good morning, good evening, and good night. Hopefully, we'll see you again next week for Subaru, which I'm very excited about.
Hmm.
So, from me, Alex, goodbye.
And from me, Wilhelm, au revoir.
Oh, we're gonna make our names more German now.
Of course.
My name,
Deutschland. No, right, no, shush.
I can't think of a way to make Alex sound more German. I'll do it. Goodbye.
Bye.